I'm sure you've heard the story by now. Speaker McCarthy getting removed from Speaker of the House. As you can imagine, I'm pretty happy about it. I think it was great. I think it was brilliant. It was a really awesome move by Matt Gaetz. I don't know anything about Matt Gaetz. I don't know. He just has this look to him. I can't really describe it. It's not somebody you would just immediately trust, I guess. But he keeps doing good things. It's kind of growing on me, I guess you could say. I mean, he may do this one good thing, right? Like they can all, a broken clock is right twice a day. Don't trust any of them, but trust him maybe just a little bit more. And if you haven't heard the news, what happened was, if you remember, it took a while, many votes to even get him into the position. He wanted it so bad, and that was a good indication that, we shouldn't give it to him. And it kind of got to the point where, okay, we'll give it to you. There's some restraints. There's some constrictions. Republicans in Congress saying, we're not going to just let you have this, to make sure that if and when, I would say when, you step out of line, we can reel you back in really quickly. And that's exactly what happened. Usually it takes half of whatever party is in control of the House to vote in the affirmative to remove a Speaker of the House. Well, they said, no, we're not doing that. When it came to McCarthy, it takes one of us to vote you out. And obviously the entire other party, the blue side, we all know that it's a no-brainer. It's whatever. So with all those constraints they put on him, if you really think about it, he wasn't truly the Speaker of the House, not the traditional meaning of the position, because he had these, I guess you could say, reins put on him. It took them long enough. Like, they should have done this already, but I think I know why, part of the reason at least, why they didn't do it. And therein lies the beauty of how they kind of did get this done. It was a brilliant move. Anytime something like this is going to happen, right, you know there's going to be a media firestorm over it. That's why this was kept quiet, or at least that's why I think it was kept quiet, because in a case like this, when people, start threatening, I'm going to do this and I'm going to put this vote up, you'll get a bunch of representatives start to talk to one another and start to strategize, start to negotiate. They'll start making all their little end plans and start forming their own counter plans to what they think is going to happen. That's normal, right? That's like business as usual in Washington, D.C. That's what happens. They all get a lot of notice before things happen. And then on the day that it happens, it's like a big deal, big media thing. And then everybody has their own way that they're going to vote. So you'll get a bunch of votes that don't make any sense, at least not from the outside, but from the inside, they know what they're doing, right? They've made plans with these people, or these people have worked with these people. It goes across the aisle, okay? Hence Uniparty. So instead of all that happening, they basically kept this thing relatively quiet. Matt Gaetz did say something, I think on some news show, a couple nights before, where he was threatening McCarthy with this, and then McCarthy responded by bring it on. That was a tweet that McCarthy put out. Bring it on. Yeah, didn't age well. Anyway, relatively speaking, he kept it pretty quiet. And I think people were kind of, at least I think a lot of the talking heads on TV were kind of thinking that, maybe this just bluster, right? Like, he's just saying, it's Gaetz, the Gaetz and McCarthy had this feud or whatever. So they were just kind of chalking it up to that, I think. Lo and behold, it wasn't just that. But I don't think Congress, as a majority, knew it. And I think even McCarthy, with all of his bring it on talk and, all the garbage that he was saying, trying to hit back against Matt Gaetz, right? Trying to discount him, trying to say that, he doesn't matter. But I think when it came down to it, everybody, except for the 8 Republicans that voted to remove McCarthy, were kind of surprised by this. They were kind of taken aback. What you got was congressional business in sort of like a vacuum, because they didn't have time to reach across the aisle to the Democrats, and the Democrats strategize with them, and then, trying to figure out, and the Democrats strategize with each other. There are reasons why the Democrats would want to keep McCarthy as Speaker of the House. There are many reasons why they would. There are quite a few other people that could be put in that position that the Democrats will definitely hate. So without letting the Republicans and the Democrats do their congressional things, this was sprung on them. And what happened? The blue side, they didn't have any other little plans in place and little negotiations and, quid pro quo stuff that they normally do. So they all reverted back to base programming, which is vote against the R, right? Like vote blue no matter who. Base programming. Because if we know anything about Democrats and leftists, they're really good at that. They're really good at the herd mentality. They're freaking socialist. We can count on this. And I think Matt Gaetz did count on this correctly. That entire side of Congress put it aside. Now, most of the Republicans in Congress voted against this. When you look at most of the Republicans in Congress, what you're seeing aren't actually Republicans. They're just unipartyists, opportunists, people that are there just to get what they can or to get power and money by any means possible, while masquerading as somebody that, says the right things from time to time, just like McCarthy. So they were left out in the cold too. They didn't know what to do. So they just went with, keep McCarthy in. He's Republican. We got to keep him in. Base programming. So the only people that mattered in this entire operation, and I think it's safe to call it an operation because this was brilliant, were the 8 Republicans that voted to remove McCarthy, because the Democrats could be counted on to do their blue no matter who thing. The establishment Republicans could be counted on to be establishment Republicans, and nobody had their back channels lined up. Their back negotiations and their strategies didn't exist for this, so everybody reverted to base programming except for the 8 Republicans that wanted to remove this scumbag McCarthy from the Speaker of the House. And that's what we saw. Basically an ambush, because Washington, D.C. didn't have time to D.C., right? This was my initial reaction. And then it was later confirmed to me that I was correct, because so many of the talking heads and the journalismers on TV started talking about, we can't have this chaos in the Republican Party. Oh, really? Yes, we can. The government is supposed to work like this. These rules are there for a reason. And I hope that the same constraints they put on McCarthy are put on the next person. This is good. Okay? So all this talk from the talking heads on TV about the chaos of government, yeah, it should be chaotic, because it's going to take a lot more chaos to do what needs to be done. Matt Gaetz is being criticized by some, especially the establishment Republican crowd and the people that follow that, for not having a plan. That's the problem with Washington, D.C. The plans. See, they did this without any plan. They did this because it was the right thing to do. That's the way it's supposed to work, because it was the right thing to do. You either are a public servant for the right reasons or you're not. If you have plans and machinations and things that ways that your little paths that you're going to take and the ground that you're going to give, I'm going to give this thing up to get this. No. The government is supposed to do the right thing. Especially the representatives that we send to Washington, D.C., they are supposed to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Criticizing them for not having a plan, we should congratulate them. And sure, Matt Gaetz might hate McCarthy, blah, blah, there might be bad blood, whatever. Maybe Gaetz is right. Maybe he deserves more trust than I give him. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. You never trust these politicians completely. We don't know them. You can say a lot, right? And then you can do these actions in DC and you can say a lot with your actions. It doesn't mean that you deserve my trust. I don't know you. Keep doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Don't keep doing things to try and earn the trust of the American people. The trust will come naturally if you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And as far as the chaos of government, good. When government is not chaotic, that's when you have to worry, because when the wheels of Washington, D.C. are just chugging right along, that always is bad for us. It has never not been a bad thing for the American people when the government is just flowing right down a path. Did you know The representatives we send there, they're not even supposed to live in DC. That's why DC's not a state. That's why you can't vote in DC. It's not a place you live. It's a place you stay temporarily. We're just sending you there for a minute just to do the government business. In fact, representatives that we used to send to Congress a long time ago, it was like a part-time job for them, but most of them had full-time jobs. Like, this was just something they did because we asked them to do it, and they volunteered to. It's not established, okay? Subject to change at a moment's notice should you do something you're not supposed to. And the representatives that we send there, this is not your career. We send you there to do a thing. And if you do not do the thing that we told you to do, then we're going to yank you back. And the way that they should see it is an enormous responsibility, and one that they don't really want to do. That's the way it was intended. It was intended to be something that you didn't want very much, but that you would go do your duty, and then you would get back to work. So yeah, this was a good thing. It was a good sign. Probably one of the few good things I've seen happen in government in a long time. And we need more of this. And the fact that they sprung this on them without allowing them to do their back channel deals, that's awesome. Because this is the way government is supposed to work. The chaos of government, please give me a break. As far as replacements go, I guess we're just gonna have to see, but he ain't it. Negative, Ghost Rider. Try again. McCarthy light? No thank you. If anybody, this guy. Give him a chance, but put the same constraints on him, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't trust any of them. He says a lot of the right things. He does a lot of the right things. That's Representative Jim Jordan, but I don't know him. I don't trust him. And the way government is right now, autonomous level that we can't seem to change, I want as many constraints on government as I can get. So the same constraints that we put on McCarthy, I want on this guy, because it wouldn't take much for him to step out of bounds, and then we're right back to where we started. So I want more constraints on government. I want more constraints on whoever takes that chair. Whoever it is, I want to make sure we can yank them back, because I think the power is hard to resist for them.